What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the most misunderstood things about Canada from Canadians' point of view, actually. I found this little Reddit discussion that someone was asking, what's one thing about Canada that's frequently misunderstood by people? I thought this was a fascinating question. For most Americans, the problem is probably that most Americans don't know anything about Canada. And this is kind of different, where it's okay, what is misunderstood? What do you think you know about Canada, but you're getting wrong? Or something very important about Canada that's just critical, that's not really understood correctly, or, anything like that seems absolutely fascinating to me. And also fascinating just to hear what Canadians, from a Canadian's point of view, what Canadians think people don't really understand about Canada correctly. That also is a huge bonus of this. So let's take a look at some of the responses. How big it is and how long it takes to get places. Really? Is this is this commonly misunderstood with people visiting Canada? I feel like this might be the one thing Americans wouldn't assume because Canada is obviously similar in size and width, in particular, width to America, being literally on top and bottom of each other, similar sizes. So Americans, like, it's a part of American daily life to just know it kind of takes forever to drive to across the country or to certain states, and you have this really built-in idea in your mind that takes a while to get places in America. So most Americans could reasonably extend that to Canada, I would think. Now, most Americans don't really have a picture in their mind of exactly what Canada looks like, where the provinces are, where things are located geographically, so Americans could probably still get this wrong. But maybe this is more for foreigners visiting Canada that are not from America, I would think. Very much this. Legit had people come visit from Europe. Okay, here we go. From Europe. That makes sense to me. I live in Ontario, so naturally I made the trek out to Pearson to pick them up. On the drive back, they were talking about how great it would be to see Quebec City and Calgary and Vancouver all in a 2 week visit. Okay. I'm really glad the first comment on it is about people from Europe. So that makes a lot more sense to me. Like, I have no clue, no concept in my mind of how long it takes to drive around Europe or places in Europe. Actually, like, I really only picture like America, and it's kind of massive, and you kind of can't visit a lot of places quickly. But in Europe, it'd be kind of cool because all the countries are a lot smaller. You can like go in between different countries quickly. That's just kind of wild to think about. Totally different frame of mind. I'm an Australian living in Canada. Same issue back home. Only difference is Australia, our domestic flights are affordable. Yeah, when you're booking flights in your own country, that it takes a while to get to places. Very common in America to fly to different states. Totally this. Okay. I've had relatives who visit Vancouver and wanted a slight detour to Toronto. Till I told them it was a 5 hour flight. Yeah, seriously. I mean, in this day and age, just pull out your phone, people. Just pull out your phone and Google Map it or something, actually. But it is also kind of fun to just ask and have your Canadian friend be like, no, it's 5 hours away, for God's sake. Okay. Another comment on things frequently misunderstood about Canada. More than half of Canadians live in the portion of Canada that is more southern than many American states. Man, this was one of the earlier videos I ever watched, honestly, or reacted to. This blew my mind. Still blows my mind. Canada, there's parts of Canada that are more south than some parts of America. if that makes sense. Doesn't make sense to me, actually. I looked at the maps, can confirm. I'm starting to wrap my head around it, but absolutely most Americans by far, I can say this with certainty, because I've told people, Americans, about this, and they don't believe me. No, they're like, really? Like, kind of like me. Uh, that Canadians are living in Canada, like, more south than some Americans. That's wild. 90% of Canadians live within 200 kilometers of US border. Right, right. Americans definitely don't know that. Um, Canadians are, it's cold up here, man. Proud part of the non border nearing Canadians here. It's cold up here. Indeed. They are masters of affable passive aggressiveness. What does affable mean? Also, Canadians, are you passive aggressive? Friendly. Affable means friendly. Canadians are masters of friendly passive aggressiveness. Oh, man. Okay. I guess this makes sense because even Canadians, as sweet and kind as you are, as nice as you are, there has to be some way to express negative emotion or something towards each other and other people. And that comes in the form of, passive aggressiveness. I think that's actually pretty funny. Friendly passive aggressiveness. That makes sense. Very Canadian still. Exactly this. There's an art, and we have mastered it. I call it the Canadian condition. I've had Germans and Americans both complain to me how affably passive aggressive Canadians are. Oh my gosh. People from cultures where tell it like it is the rule, are stumped when they visit Canada. Oh my gosh. I'm really learning things today. But the best part was when a British friend visited me a few years back and complained about how passive aggressive Canadians are. Brits are very passive aggressive. That is funny that they're complaining. Let me tell you something. When Brits tell you you're too passive aggressive, you're probably too passive aggressive. Is this true? Canadians, is this true? That's very funny. I like that. It's like a symptom of being so nice that, when you have to get a little not so nice, passive aggressive. Sorry. The random Canadian comes in. Sorry about that. Oh, that is perfect. Okay. Contrary to belief, we all don't know Jeff from Toronto. I don't know this reference. Jeff from Toronto. Is this saying that? Oh, I think I know what they're saying. Whenever Americans know a Canadian, in this example, Jeff, Jeff the Canadian, in America, do Americans think all Canadians know each other? Basically, oh, do you know Jeff who works with me? He's from Toronto too. Is it like that? Um, is it saying that Americans kind of assume all Canadians or all Torontonians know each other? I think that's what it's saying. I think that's what it's saying. Okay. I know Mike from Canmore. Okay. I've heard Americans say we're cold, like cold in temperature. Yes, I would say that. Like cold as in personality, cold people. I used to read blogs by expats relaying their experiences abroad. One was a lady from Michigan living in Ontario. She went in detail about how she found the people in her Ontario city were cold and unfriendly. What? But the situation she described. I wish she knew they weren't uncaring. They were trying to keep a respectful distance, not push or pry themselves on her. We care. We want to be supportive, but we don't want to invade privacy. Oh, so Americans or really any culture like America that is very like out there and putting themselves really on their wearing their hearts on their sleeves and interacting and being loud and conversational and social. Whenever they encounter any kind of culture or people that are more respectful and distant or a little more respectful of like how you interact with people. Um, Americans can probably interpret that as being cold or distant when it's really just trying to be respectful. That's a good one. That's a good one, actually. A good observation. Hmm. Polite does not necessarily equal nice. Oh, that's kind of the passive aggressive thing coming back. Yes, just because Canadians are polite doesn't equal nice. Does that mean there's very mean, polite Canadians? Or I wish I had some examples of this. Polite a-holes. Oh, jeez. Like we will wave, thanks for letting me in, as we cut you off in traffic. Okay. We aren't even polite 97% of the time. We just have manners. Right, right. There is a difference. There is a difference between like being polite and having like regular manners and decency, which anyone should have. Um, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. We just don't say anything, so we're perceived as polite. Oh, so on the inside, you're really thinking some angry thoughts, but keeping them to yourself. Is that right? Oh, this is good stuff. Not exactly the direction I thought that this common misunderstood things about Canada would go, but I like it. It's hitting very deep, very, very obscure. Like, I would never learn about this kind of thing. And I know this isn't representative of all Canadians, or maybe it is, I don't know. But it's cool to read about these very personal opinions from Canadians. I recently had a conversation where a USA Redditor was convinced that the Canadian accent resembles a Minnesota accent. After I explained Manitoba and various regional differences, and then cited Canadian celebrities, the retort was something along the lines of every single Canadian person ever recorded was putting on the California accent, much like how Christian Bale puts on an American accent in interviews. I'm not sure I completely understand this, but it sounds like an American was basically saying the Canadian accent isn't real or is a copy of an American accent. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know about all that. I don't think that's true. Like, and plus there are different Canadian accents within Canada that have like different degrees of variability. So that doesn't sound like it has anything to do with America or American accents. I don't know. I don't know what I think about all that. Uh, interesting though. Interesting. I do wonder if when you get really close to Canada and you're living like on the border of Canada and America, then do the accents kind of start colliding and being very similar? Probably. How diverse our landscape is. Yeah, the landscape. The landscape of Canada is severely underrated. Even I didn't appreciate it until I started traveling across Canada. We have forests, rainforests, tundra, desert, and badlands. We have ice fields and palm trees. Yes, yes. This is just goes from all the YouTube videos about Canada I've gotten to watch. I absolutely agree with this. Americans have no clue about this. How absolutely genuinely incredible the geography of Canada is. Americans just think it's a cold, desolate, frozen wasteland at times. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. I mean, that can be the truth sometimes. That can be the truth anywhere that it's cold. But it's also beautiful and lots of different types of landscape. Yeah. Canada is very diverse. There is no average Canadian. That's a good point. That's well said. Word. Yes, agreed. Canada's very diverse. Yeah, I don't think Americans definitely do not know that. 100%. Because I am continually surprised by that. How big of that is in Canada. Diversity. Yeah, I had no clue, for sure. So, Americans have no idea. That's a good one. That's a good one. Misunderstood about Canada. Um, these are pretty good. These are fascinating. We are not just versions of Americans. I don't think people think that, but I'm sure some people think that. So this is a good one to say. We're not just versions of Americans. I'm sure that could be very irritating to Canadians if you ever heard that. Because Americans are never really called another version of Canada. So I could see it being super annoying if Canada was ever referred to as a different kind of America version. Yeah, I get that. We have different values, we think differently, our politics are different, our culture is different. Yeah, 100%. I know that very well now. I think people get confused because we sound similar and we can pass as Americans. Exactly. That's exactly spot on. Exactly. Uh, I used to think before I started learning a lot more about Canada that there was really no big difference at all between Canadians and Americans, and that is just not true. Canadians can pass off as Americans, obviously. Like, we all speak English and we are similar in a lot of ways, but the differences, man, between Canada and America are astounding. And there's still endless things I don't know about it. It's just one of the most misunderstood but amazing topics by far. Anyway, I enjoyed this. This is exactly what I was hoping. Things about Canada that are frequently misunderstood, particularly by Americans. And I think I say that because it's so funny to me how America is we're right here. We're right next to Canada. We're one of the biggest trading partners and partners with Canada. And Americans just don't know anything about Canada. It's weird, but I'm rectifying that a little bit, I hope. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada, Canadian culture, stuff about Canada I've never seen or learned before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.